Andrea Branzi is an Italian architect and industrial designer. As one of the founders of the Italian radical movement, he solidified his position as not only a designer, but as a critic of design and culture. He sees architecture not as the art of building, but as a much more articulated form of thought. He attempts to understand the philosophy of design in the context of current problems, emphasizing the importance of aesthetics and artistic experimentation. Since the 1980s, Branzi has been advocating a post-industrialist approach which maintains the importance of design for the individual. Whereas modernism reduced complexity through rationalization, Branzi's approach states that the high degree of complexity must be turned into an advantage in design. When discussing primitivism as an art form, Branzi speaks to Western radical movements that borrow visual forms from non-Western or prehistoric cultures, such as African motifs in paintings and ceramics. It is the conscious rejection of modern Western methods and technologies within the design community. Neo-primitivism, the radical Western art movement, represents an incorporation of postmodernist technologies and the aesthetic inspiration of primitivism. Users see stable signs, powerful but liberating, that can speak across languages. It is closely linked with the neo-tribalism, the ideology that human beings have evolved to live in a tribal society as opposed to mass society, and thus will naturally form social networks constituting new tribes. He argues that the ideological parachute of modernism no longer works because culture and design no longer move the world through logical and ethical radicalism. Only unexpected progress is valued. He argued that all human beings are primitives. By this, Branzi is referring to the continual improvement of the human condition, our abilities to work with technologies and at the same time returning to natural, tribal themes, forms, and materials. He incorporated his approach to design into his well-known textual work, Branzi's Dilemma, which constitutes the fundamental changes in design over the last 2 decades to unfold with gathering force in directions that few people can anticipate and no one can entirely comprehend. The unifying structure of modernism has been ushered out, and according to Branzi, this lays waste to progress for humanity and creates a condition of confusion and convolution. Where does the individual find identity and moral purpose within such an environment? He claims that no longer is technology the powerhouse behind contemporary design, with emphasis now being placed on curiously atypical aesthetics and methods of production. Whilst the function of these pieces is often slightly subjective, their true function is habitually discursive. It is this element of discursiveness that is the true beauty of the object. He argued that modernism is an artistic visual language, and that the role of the design is to enrich the role of the world, not just with useless ornaments and technological innovations, but with self-sufficient microplaces, which are absolutely necessary to give a sense to everything. Now to speak more about body and magic. If we were to travel back in time 1,000 years and tell the first person we met of the marvels of our age, our listener would imagine a world where magic and mystery reigned. Yet few of us who live in the present find our era magical. Rather, it's quite the opposite. The domination of strictly logical and rational means of thought weighs heavily on people's perception of the world and themselves within it. Branzi believes that primitivism, including neo-primitivism, encompasses a certain fullness of mystery, magic, and religion that is overshadowed by the ethical and philosophical vacuum of postmodernism. Likewise, most of us don't find modern society to particularly empowering or enriching, so much as draining and devoid of enchantment. The conception of the ideal body comes from neo-primitivism, which rises from subcultures of people who share common interests, dress styles, values, and behavioral patterns. Neo-primitivism transforms the body into a new magic object, one that simultaneously constructs and communicates identity. Through this construction, a new ritualism is born through the body, which acts as a canvas to be decorated. The body thus becomes the central point of expression, and that emerging phenomenon defined as neo-primitivism, and that, in reality, represents one of the extreme poles of the modernist condition. Moderate forms of neo-tribalism believe that a tribal societal structure can coexist within a modern society, and often take advantage of the products of civilization, such as technology, to support their neo-tribal associations. Examples include countercultural groupings like punks and rock subcultures. By reinfusing design and expression with magic and mystery, Branzi hopes to make a sense of the convoluted tribal stage through a unified motif. Thank you for listening for our presentation.